Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
You are designing the page, you should remember that you are not supposed to use any Java code directly. The reason for that is web designers. Normally there will be a separate position called web designer who will work only on HTML or HTML5 or JSP pages. You can call them as front-end developers or GUI developers. Normally these people won't have any idea related to Java code. So whenever we have a separate module called web designing, let us say we have 100 pages design, just like your H2K Infosys site or some big site. So a single person can't work on the front-end level and also on the server level. Normally it will be divided into the modules and will recruit a specific person for web designing. But the web designer, he won't be able to understand the Java code, in the sense he can't write whatever the code that we are writing within our scriptlet. That's the reason whenever you are designing the page, it shouldn't contain Java code. Second thing is, it will be hard to maintain Java code within your JSP page. Let us execute this file once. Normally when you have written the Java code, let us say we have written our Java code within our JSP page. And let us say after some time we need to change some parameters or any other kind of information. Currently it is just like only 4 or 5 parameters. You can just directly debug into the page and can change any kind of data Java code you want. But if at all, if someone else other than the Java developer was supposed to change our code, then it will be definitely hard for them to maintain your code, and it will be hard for them to change the code as well. So that means during the design itself, during the startup time itself, you should avoid writing any kind of scriptlet code or expressions code within your JSP page. But without Java code, it is just like a plain HTML. So then there won't be any difference between your HTML page or JSP page. We have mentioned that we are supposed to avoid writing scriptlet code or expression code, but we have the access to use any kind of tags within our JSP page. See, your HTML will be processed by the web browser and it will be displayed. It will display the content based on the processing, HTML processing. But for JSP, it will be processed by your container. So your container has the access to all the tags and it knows how to resolve those tags to the Java code and display onto the front end. So there are some standard tags available for your JSP as well. They are called as standard actions. Currently, with your bean, for your bean, what are we doing? We are retrieving the bean object from the session and we are retrieving each and every property from the bean. So JSP standard action has a tag called useBean tag, which consists of certain attributes. For any tag, it consists of certain attributes. So you need to specify what is the name nothing but your bean object name. And also you need to specify at what scope you have set the parameter, and also what is the actual class name for the bean. So currently our bean name is employee object. Employee object. And also your class name, you need to specify the fully qualified name, which is com dot jdbc dot util dot employee. And the scope is currently it was specified in session scope. Once you have specified a useBean tag with all the necessary properties, your container will read this tag and it will generate the Java code for you. Whatever the Java code that you have written at this level, your container will be going to write by processing this particular tag information. Each and every tag will consist of certain attributes, just like how you have within your HTML itself. Now, come back to, you have prepared the bean now. Once you have prepared the bean, what are we doing? We are retrieving the bean information by specifying the bean object name. This is the name, reference name, and also you are calling the employee first name property. Method you are calling, internally it will provide you the property. So there is one another standard action which is get property, and the get property will consist of two attributes. The first one is your name, which you have used at the useBean level, and also the property name, just like your bean property name. You just need to specify the bean property name with your employee object. This will be internally written as emp object dot get employee. It will call the getter method. That's the reason we are supposed to write the getter method within our bean class. This will internally create like this, and this one internally creates like it will use the session scope and it will call the get attribute method and it will pass the name as employee object. Yeah, you can use any name. Let us convert our Java code. So I'm going to remove this one now. And you can see that I have written a JSP useBean tag with an ID employee object, and the type is com.jdbc.util.employee, and the scope is session scope. Probably I might have misspelled. The attribute name is ID but not name. Once after that, I don't want to write the scriptlet code or expressions code. I just want to use, I'll write first of all here itself, JSP colon. You need to use JSP colon, and once after that you need to specify your tag name. So you are just informing to the container that all these tags are available from the JSP. We'll discuss this later why we are following this syntax. JSP colon get property. Get property accepts two parameters, two attributes. The first one is the property. Property is nothing but your property name from the bean, and you need to specify the ID here. In the same way, you need to specify at each and every level. Change this to employee last name. Change this to designation. See why I am specifying designation, employee last name and employee first name, because those are the properties from my employee bean. Employee first name, employee last name, designation. It should match the same name, and based on that, your container will use the property name, and it will write the get designation method within your JSP converted Java file. And finally, you need to write the code for address as well. As of now, just comment this one. We'll write about this one later. Currently display only the first employee details, then we'll discuss about address details later. Now if you take a look at the code, you can see that our JSP page is free from scriptlet. We don't have any scriptlet at all within our code. And we are able to retrieve the information with simple JSP tags instead of writing the Java code. So for a web designer, it would be easy for him to understand this type of concept, like, hey, go and use useBean tag, and your ID will consist of the session attribute name, and it will specify the actual bean reference, and also you need to specify what kind of a scope you are using. useBean tag, yes, Isha. But not for all the cases. See, currently we are expecting only the bean information onto the front end. So instead of going for scriptlet, we are replacing with useBean tag. Let us say we are retrieving the information as a list. In the sense, let us say you are querying the database like select star from employee where salary is less than 3,000 and salary is greater than 4,000. In that case, you'll get multiple employee objects, and you are supposed to use some other tags to display the data onto the front end. But for our case, currently, useBean will be useful, and we can display the data by using useBean itself. Let us go and execute the code. Oh yeah, those are provided by the database. So now you can see that you are able to display the data. See, to the front end, there are no much changes. Previously also you are able to display the data using your scriptlet, and now also you are able to display the data using your useBean tag. But the only difference lies at the execution of the code. If you go and verify the JSP generated Java file by the container, go back to your Tomcat. Our detail display underscore JSP.java file. You can see that all the code was written by the container itself. It has created an employee object, and it is expecting employee object with session scope. And if the employee object was not available, it is throwing an exception, instantiation exception, which specifies that bean employee object was not available within the session scope. And after that, it is calling the get employee first name, last name, designation, and salary method. So that means during the compilation, you should have the getter methods available within your employee class. If it was not available, it will throw you an exception specifying that it was not able to compile the Java file. Let me remove one field, or let me access some other field which is not available within our employee class. So here I am writing designations. Let me execute the page one more time. Cannot find any information on property designations in a bean of type com.jdbc.util.employee. So you have mentioned that you are expecting designations property from the employee class, but it was not available. That's the reason it was throwing an exception. So whenever you are writing a property, the getter method should be available for that property, and the getter method will be automatically called by your container, and it will display the data. Now you are able to retrieve the details like designation, salary, first name, last name, all the normal properties you are able to retrieve. But what about address details? How can we retrieve the address details by using our useBean tag? Go back to our JSP page once again. So previously we have the address details also retrieved by using our Servlet tag. So this was also supposed to be replaced by our useBean get property method. So I'm taking the get property, and currently the property name is, go and verify your employee class. What is the property name? Address is my property name. Once you got the address object, here within employee, address is an object, not like a normal primitive data type or a string object. So that means when it is trying to print, when it is trying to get the property from employee object, it can easily call employee object.getAddress method, but the getAddress method will provide you an object representation. So we are not expecting an address object. We want city, state, and zip code from address object. Let us change these things also. Currently with employee object, once you have created a use bean, an employee object, and you are able to fetch the details based on the object name and you are specifying the properties. But currently the problem was the property itself is an object. That means you are supposed to use the nested property level. So you can call address.city or address.zipcode or address.state. You can't use directly the address object. Let us say I'm trying to use address.city, address.state, address.zipcode. See, just like your employee object, I don't have address object available directly. I have the address object linked to my employee object. So I should go only by my employee object, and I can only retrieve the nested properties like address.state or address.city or address.zipcode. But unfortunately, this syntax is not valid for useBean tag. If you specify like this, your useBean tag won't understand that it was supposed to call address.getState. It will simply call get off all this information. That means your useBean tag, by using useBean, it's not at all possible to retrieve the information at a nested level. Let me execute this one. You can see that it will still think that the address.state is a single property which is available in employee class, and now it is telling that it couldn't able to find the property address.state within our employee class. But we want the state, city, and zip code from employee.address. Just like that only we want the data. We can't go simply putting the address object in a session at the at a servlet level and retrieve at this level. We can do that. You can just go back to your servlet. Go back to your servlet. So within your servlet, you are setting the session attribute for employee object. You can retrieve set attribute of address employee dot get address. You can set in the session, and on your JSP page you can declare one more, just like one. Here we have one bean, just like this. You can create one more bean which is related to address object. And here, instead of going the employee level, you can simply retrieve like this. Let us go and execute this one. See, currently what I have done with respect to my servlet, I have set two session attributes. The first one is employee object, and the next one is address object. Steve, what happened? Cannot find any information on property city in the bean of type employee. The bean of type employee. Something I have set wrongly. Yeah. Yeah, now you can see that we are able to display the data, and when I am accessing the object, you can see that the data got displayed with object representation. The reason for that is my employee is referring to address object, and within my employee class, I have an address reference as well. But this approach is not suggestible. The reason for that is our employee is linked to the address object, and you can't access the address object directly without the employee class. But currently what you are doing, you are directly accessing the address object. And one more thing is, currently you are referring to only one object. That is fine. You are able to set the attribute in one level, and you are able to retrieve the information using session attributes. But let us say you have lot of objects referring from your employee class. Let us say it is referring to billing class. Billing object reference was available within your employee class, or else customer information, or else telephone information. So with each and every object availability within your employee class, you are supposed to set that object within session scope, and you need to retrieve the information as long as you have those many objects. So this approach is not at all valid. To access the nested property, we have another solution, which is expression language. In short, it will be called as ELs. By using EL, you can easily access nested properties. And the good thing about EL is, whenever you are displaying the data using EL, and if the property was not available, just like how we have seen the destinations property which was not available in our employee class, and you got an error message. But when you are using EL, EL will handle those cases and won't display anything at that level. Whenever there is a null value, EL will handle that scenario and it won't display anything onto the front end. See, we don't want to display a null representation to the user. If at all, if you have left the column, left the text box as blank, that would be fair enough for the user instead of displaying a null representation. And the second thing is, EL syntax is very compact. You don't need to write a lot of tags or attributes or the big string kind of information to retrieve the data. The syntax is very compact and it follows EL syntax. It follows with a dollar symbol and the objects are specified within curly braces. There are two types of EL specifications available, or data specification. The first one is EL objects and the next one is EL attributes. EL objects, they will be specified, both will be specified by using dollar symbol only, and within the curly brace you need to specify either the object or attribute. That's it. No need to specify much more information about your data retrieval. EL objects, they are specified with map representation. In the sense, how we'll access the map parameters? Map name dot property name, which will provide you the property value. So any EL object will be specified in the same way. You just need to specify the implicit object dot property name. The left hand side parameter, it should be either a map or it can be a bean as well, because your bean also consists of several properties. Bean dot property name. If at all, if the property resolves to an object, you can still go ahead and use one more dot operator, property object dot property name. This is how you will access the nested parameters. So in our case, you can simply go ahead and what is the first bean name? Employee object. And what is the property? Address. And within address, you want city property. This is how you will specify. And the next one is EL attributes. EL attributes will be specified only with a single parameter. Attributes, normally attributes how we'll use, will associate with request, session, page scope, or application scope. You can go ahead still and put one more dot object. Request, session, page, or application. Normally we'll set the attributes by using these contexts only. The EL attributes, it's very short syntax. That means you can go ahead and specify dollar currently employee object, or else let us say we have employee name set in request to scope. Let us assume that we have used request.setAttribute method. Let us say we have set employee name Steve with attribute name employee first name. So whenever you have specified employee first name with a dollar symbol by using EL attribute syntax, then your container will verify in all the scopes starting from page, request, session, and also application. So this will verify, your container will verify first in page scope, and if it was not available, then it will verify in request scope, and also it will verify in session scope, and finally it will verify in application scope. If it was not available in any of the scopes, it will simply ignore the parameter to display the data, and it won't throw any exception, or it won't display any null value to your front end. So with this case, if at all, if you have the same attribute at multiple level, let us say I have the same attribute name at request scope level and session scope level. In that case, you will go for normal EL object syntax, and you will use specific implicit object from which scope you want to retrieve.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website h2kinfosys.com. On our website h2kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.